This video will explain how to get your data out of a Qualtrics survey and into Brightstat. It's easier to put your Qualtrics data directly into SPSS, but some of my students prefer to use Brightstat because it seems a little easier for them. The first step is to go to your My Projects page in Qualtrics. And the survey that you're choosing is this long strip. I'm going to use an internship survey that I used for another project. If you're new to Qualtrics, you won't have that many projects to choose from. There's probably only the one that you did. If you go to the extreme right-hand side of that stripe, you'll find a marker to open a menu, and you want the Data and Analysis option. When you click on Data and Analysis, you get a summary of your responses. You can take a preliminary look at your data, but it's not ready to be put into Brightstat yet. Go to the box labeled Export and Import and choose Export Data. Regardless whether you're using Brightstat or SPSS, choose the left-hand box, which is Download Data Table. There are 4 options. One of them is SPSS, but the typical one that you use is TSV. If that's the recommendation, let's choose TSV. They're tab-separated values. It's very important that you choose Use Numeric Values. If you gave people 5 choices ranging from strongly disagree to strongly agree, if you don't choose numeric values, you'll get the words back and you'll have to convert them. If you choose the numeric values option, Qualtrics will do the work for you. Click on Download. It takes a while for it to appear. You can save it into your Downloads folder, but I recommend that you give it a much shorter name, as long as it still ends in .tsv. Click Save, where you can find it later. I recommend the desktop. When you're done, you can exit the download box and you can load your data into Excel. If you simply double-click the file that ends in .tsv, you'll probably confuse your computer. So the other option is to just directly go into Excel to clean your data there. Why Excel? Because Excel is an acceptable format to Brightstat. I went to my Downloads folder and I'm not seeing my survey. That's because Excel expects to find an Excel file. In the lower right-hand corner, and I don't know how it works on a Macintosh, just make sure you're looking at all files. And I'm going to sort them by date, and there's my answer at the top, testresults.tsv. And I'm going to open that. Excel comes up with a text import wizard. Specify delimited files and that the delimiter is a tab because TSV stands for tab separated values. Then click on Finish, and now inside of Excel you have all your data ready to be cleaned. The very first thing you should do is go to the File menu and click on Save As. And you're going to save into your current area or somewhere else a backup. And you might as well save it as an Excel workbook format. This is an important step because if anything goes wrong from this point forward, you can always come back to your backup and get all of the information that was given to you by Qualtrics. If you look at this screen, you'll see there's quite a bit of information there, and it's a little bit confusing. Generally speaking, the answers to your questions are over here on the right-hand side of the page, starting usually with column Q. If you're curious about these other columns, column A is when the survey was started, and column B is when the survey was ended. That might give you a general idea when your responses came in. In this particular case, it helps me understand which ones I should keep because this survey was launched on November 16th. So I'm going to highlight all the rows, and you highlight a row by clicking on the number of the row. Hold down the Shift key and just move the cursor up, and you can get rid of all the responses by using Control- or Command- on the Mac to get rid of the responses. You can see the survey doesn't have that many responses. Because so much of this information provided to you by Qualtrics. For example, where the response came from, which IP address on the internet, or the geographical location. You can look up the coordinates and see where in the country or in the city or in the world your response came from. A lot of that is pretty useless to you at this point. So I would click on column A, and again, hold down the Shift key and cursor all the way over to the column P. And again, delete those columns by using Control- or Command-. At this point, you're into your data, but it still needs to be cleaned up. Brightstat will only accept numbers. And so if there's, say, a question mark somewhere, as here in column I, row 5, or someone has written none, or there's a comma, you may want to take care of those now. The way Qualtrics handles the names of your variables is interesting. The first row is the number of the question. Question 1, question 2, question 3, question 4. You'll notice mine jumps to question 14 and then back to question 5. That's because when I created this questionnaire, I moved a question. And Qualtrics is reminding me that this question was originally question number 14. The importance of row number 1 cannot be overstated. It gives you an idea of which question was being answered so that you know what information is inside that column. Row 3 is useless. So if you highlight the row and Control-, delete it away, Command- on a Macintosh, you're left with rows 1 and 2. When I created my survey, I put labels on each question, like faculty status, teaching area, experience. But then I got tired of doing that, and occasionally I just left it blank, in which case the question is labeled with what the respondent saw. What incentives do you receive as an internship director? Column L, estimate the percentage of your 4-credit internships that are on campus. So in this case, row 2 is a nice record of what you asked, and it corresponds to the question number. So what I recommend you do is you highlight both row and row 2, use the copy function. I'm just going to click on copy, and then paste that somewhere. Paste it into a Word document, paste it into a text file, paste it into another spreadsheet, save separately, but keep a record of which questions go with which question numbers. Assuming I've done that, I no longer need row number 2, so I highlight that and get rid of it. This is a tab-separated file, but so often files become comma-separated files, and I have a thing about getting rid of the commas. It may not be necessary for you, but it's pretty easy to do. In order to get rid of the commas, choose Everything. Usually Control-A or Command-A will highlight all of your information. Then go to Control-F for Find, or Command-F on a Macintosh, and look for all the commas and replace them with semicolons. It only found 3, but at least I don't have to worry about commas messing up my files later. For the most part, my data are all numbers. I used Likert scales for these questions, strongly agree, or how often do you, and because I used the numeric values option, these are numbers. If you give an open-ended response for someone to type in a number, say here in question 24, someone wrote in 50, someone wrote in 20, the question was estimate the percentage. Even though the question specified don't type the percentage key, some people did. It also was a problem with question number 25. So if I highlight both, and I can click both if I hold down the Shift key. Before I proceed, also notice that respondent number, the second person to respond, seems to have answered May 10th. But indeed what they did was they wrote 5-10, meaning 5 to 10%. And Excel interpreted 5-10 as May 10th. So you may want to click on that box first, change it to General Format 7.5, which is the median of 5 to 10. Then for the boxes labeled 15 and 40, Excel interpreted them as percentages, so you have to change that back to general format and then type the actual values, 15 and 40. That seems like a lot of work, doesn't it? It's called cleaning your data, and it's tedious. You would wish that your respondents would simply follow the instructions, but sometimes you just have to go in and fix things. Here, for example, for question 34, someone, instead of typing in a number, says, does not apply. Just erase their does not apply. When you do your data analysis, that respondent for that question will just simply be ignored, which is pretty much what you want. I've scrolled all the way to the end of the survey and have not seen any other problems. But there was a word on the first page I need to take care of. Someone wrote none, and it was an other category for question 14, option 4. I don't want to lose that data, but I know that Brightstat doesn't like words, so I'll just change none into 0. And we'll see if it makes a difference later. Here's another not applicable. I'm going to hit the delete key and get rid of that. Here's a question mark. They don't know. If they don't know, I don't want to see it. I hit the delete key. So I'm looking around the page here and I'm not seeing any other problems except questions 18 and 19. And frankly, I forget what I did, so I'm just going to delete those and pretend they didn't matter. In your case, you may have to look it up to see what was going on. You know you're done when the first row is question numbers and everything else is either integers or rational numbers, or maybe you might see a semicolon, but nothing else is strange on the screen. Cleaning is the process of getting rid of unusual looking items and responses. When in doubt, throw it out. Just get rid of the column if it's too confusing. If you asked an open-ended question and you have a long-winded answer and you decide, I'm really not going to use that, just delete that column. The final step inside of Excel is to click on File, Save As, and I'm going to name this Clean and save it as an Excel workbook file. It's always easy to find the clean file if you name it Clean. The next step is to go to Brightstat and upload the data. Log on the usual way. The first step is to click on the Choose File box. I'm going to open Clean, and you'll notice that Brightstat now says that that file is chosen. Click on Excel file because that's what it is. Very important, click on this box that says File contains variable names in the first row. If I scroll down, I can hit the Submit button. It says the file load was successful. If I go to Start Web App, after a long wait, because this program does originate in Switzerland, I can click on the data menu, download from server, select file, and lo and behold, there is a file now there called Clean. If I click on Load, I have successfully loaded all of my entries. One step that I left out was to remove the blank respondents. You can do that on your own. If you have any rows that are completely blank, while you're inside of Excel, you can delete them, or I think you can delete them once you get into Brightstat, but I'm not sure. Sometimes these videos make it look too easy. If you have any problems, take the raw file that you downloaded, your backup from Qualtrics, and send it to me as an email attachment, and maybe I can help you out more quickly than you pounding your head against the table for 45 minutes before you give up. Hope that helps. See you next time.